What do you do to prepare a boat to leave it for months at a time? Hi, I'm Nika Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. Today I'm talking about how you get ready to leave your boat for a long time. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Infiniti, the most trusted name in woven vinyl flooring in the marine industry. Since 2008, Infiniti has offered boat owners premier flooring options proven to withstand even the most demanding environments. Each of their products is equipped with UV-stable fade resistance and antimicrobial technology, giving them both durability and style that can't be matched. Thinking about kicking carpet to the curb? Make the switch to Infiniti and see the difference true luxury makes. Visit InfinityLWV.com and use the coupon code GALLEY, that's G-A-L-L-E-Y, for 10% off any area rug. Limit 1 per customer. This is a question that comes up all the time. What do I have to do to be able to leave my boat in X spot for months at a time? There are questions about the kind of food you can leave on the boat, how you leave it so that there isn't mold growing like some kind of another being on your boat when you come back. Here are 4 steps that you might want to think about as you're trying to decide how you're going to prep your boat to leave it for a long time away. So the first thing is that you need to understand what for a while means. Because really, we start this question and we answer this question all the time. It's just we're used to doing it on a very short time period. If you leave the house to go to work, or if you leave your boat to go out for dinner, you actually are thinking in some way, shape, or form, how am I going to leave my boat? Because there are some questions that come up. The first thing is you want to make sure that the boat is in the same place when you come back. You want to do things like check anchors and chafe gear. You may want to add extra lines if you're at the dock. And definitely check the chafe gear as well. If you're hauled out, reduce windage. Well, it depends. If you're going for a weekend and it looks like it's going to be nice weather, then you don't have to think about reducing necessary windage. But if you're leaving for months at a time, my suggestion would be strip down your sails. Take a whole lot of anything extra off. You might want to remove your dodger, your bimini. If you're in a place where it's advised, see if you can get hurricane straps put on your boat. If you're anchored, you want to look at what the weather forecast is. You're going to look at what your neighbors are like and how they're anchored. And you're also, maybe, if you're going for a long time and you're staying on an anchor, you may want to hire somebody to check out your boat and make sure it's in good shape and go over what it is that you want them to do should some event come up. And that's a secondary part of this step. So if step 1 is to make sure that your boat is where you left it when you come back, you want to think about security. And this is definitely an individual choice. You might hire somebody to check on the boat. You might run a camera. You might set up an alarm system. There are a few kind of dock watching apps that are out there now. And all of this is very individual, but you have to think about it and figure that out. Step 2, you're going to work to make the boat as habitable on your return as you can. This has to do with mold and smells and bugs and animal invaders. Clean your boat super well. You want to open up cabinets and floorboards to allow for airflow. So it'll mean that when you walk back onto the boat, it won't immediately be unpack your bags and there you go. There's some work to put the boat back together. But if you leave floorboards open and cabinets for airflow, you're much less likely to have mold be a big issue. If you're in a high humid environment, you may want to set up a dehumidifier. You might want to place a lot of Canberra gel containers everywhere. If you're trying to make sure that no animals come on board, if you're in an area where rats are a problem, you want to make sure that there are rat guards on any dock lines. Go through your boat completely, looking for small holes that a rodent or a snake or a wasp might be able to get in. And you may want to do some kind of a plug on any through holes that are, but you have to watch out because you don't want to block up, particularly cockpit drains. You don't want to block those to make the water drain out of there. So there's a little bit of you have to trade it back and forth and see how you're going to set it up. But check that out. Just because you're on a boat doesn't mean you can't critter-proof to the best of your ability on it. Bug traps, Advion gel as cockroach preventers and ant preventers are highly recommended. Peppermint oil is supposed to be a great deterrent against rodents. So if you're in an area where there are a lot of them, you may want to get a lot of peppermint oil to spray around. Step number 3, and this is really the big one, is dealing with food. At least it's big for me. It might not be for you, but I think once you've figured out those other 2, this is the food question is one that comes up a lot. How much do you need to take off and what do you need to do to the food that's on your boat so that you're okay when you come back? And what you do will definitely depend on how long you're leaving for. It will depend on what the temperatures are where you are and what the humidity is and how prone to bugs your area is. Are you going to be leaving your refrigerator running? And if you are, there are some added steps to make sure that you have a way for backup power, because if you leave something in your fridge hoping your fridge is going to keep running the whole time and there's a power outage, you could come back to a very nasty smell that you don't want to come back to. Be absolutely diligent about going through every cabinet and thinking about how long you're going and what the temperatures are like. Think about what that's going to mean for the food that you have there. If I'm leaving my boat in the tropics for, say, hurricane season, you might want to make sure that there are no pasta packages left on the boat because they'll mold and they'll also attract bugs. In something that's high heat, high humidity, I think that cans would in general be fine. If you're going to be in an area that freezes solid, take a look at that. If you're going to be gone for a long time and it's going to go well below freezing, cans and jars of food that might be okay in a humid and hot environment might not last the winter because they might explode, and that would be gross and nasty. A good rule of thumb, if you're leaving for more than a month, is to remove any food item that is not in completely sealed packages. And boxes of pasta aren't completely sealed. A plastic bag of rice that has never been opened is probably pretty safe, but a box of pasta and a box of cake mix is probably not totally sealed. As you're leading up to getting off the boat, eat through everything perishable that you have. There's no point in wasting food and getting rid of it. So just think about that kind of stuff. Step 4 is check, double check, triple check, lock up, and head off. And then be prepared to be really excited when you come back and your boat's exactly where it was. So things that I do before I leave the boat for a long time, I definitely empty the fridge, wiped it all down, and leave it open. I leave all the cabinets open. I leave the floorboards up. I have Ken Barrow gel packs everywhere. We don't yet have any kind of a solar fan for ventilation going through, and so it's pretty hot when we come back down to the boat. We check to make sure that there are no holes available. We've little pieces of fabric that we stick into the slats of our companionway so that something can't sort of slide in there. I don't leave anything perishable on the boat at all. We've got friends who live nearby, and they've been wonderful enough to come and check on the boat every now and then if something bad is coming down the line. We check our lines, rig them for hurricanes as best we can, take all the sails off, take the canvas off, leave things basically ready so that if there were something to come up, the boat is as protected as it can be. Before we leave the boat in the wintertime, we winterize the engine, running non-toxic antifreeze through it so that the engine block doesn't get cracked. And then, when it's time to come back, we're really happy to come around the corner and see the boat exactly where we left it. Because even if it's been just a couple of hours, the sight of our boat makes us smile. Can't wait to see you out there. Thanks again for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. We aim to answer all your cruising questions, so ask away. There's a link in the show notes. Feel free to drop us a line.